Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Road End podcast. Each episode we will speak to a new guest, get to know them and hear their stories about Liverpool Football Club.
Courtney, welcome to the pod. How are you doing?
Not bad, thanks. Yeah.
Good to have you on. Yeah, good, thank you. I know you as a content creator, I'd say. Is that the title that you want?
Yeah, definitely. I don't like when everyone goes influencer. I'm like, no, I am definitely not an influencer.
Oh, so what got you into doing the content creating then?
Well, originally I've always had a passion for photography, and then slowly that went, and also like I was watching people on YouTube, mainly more travel stuff, which is completely different, obviously, to what I tend to do. And I always had like a passion of I wanted to start filming alongside photography, and then it just happened by coincidence that as COVID started, suddenly with the football stuff I'd posted on my Instagram originally, that just started growing and growing. And then from there I went on to do lives once I was back in Liverpool on Instagram, and then ended up growing into YouTube to sort of make it a bit more permanent than just me randomly walking around Anfield every other day.
I've seen your clip. The reaction ones are quite funny, to be fair.
Yeah, I think the penalties off last season, especially the Tsimikas one, that's like, them penalties are probably the best reactions I've ever seen from myself to anything I've watched.
What kind of response do you get online? So there's Irish lads coming over and they're doing, let's say, live snippets and TikToks and all these things while the match is going on.
Yeah.
How's your reaction been when you do stuff like this?
I've never really had anything negative. I've had probably one moment where genuinely it's like the derby. I always remember because it's the only one I've had. It's the derby last season. And anyone who's been to a derby or a big game at Anfield knows if you stood at the back of the Kop, there's probably an extra few hundred people at the back that shouldn't necessarily be there. But like I said, like it is really hard to see if you're in one of the back corners, and something had gone on and everyone around me was like, what's going on? And none of us knew. So I went, hang on a minute, let me just lift my camera up for a second and I can see over everyone's heads then. So I'd done that, and this woman within, like, I'd literally had it up for 5 seconds, was about to pull it down anyway, and she just went like that on my arm. And I turned around and was like, what? And she was like, I can't see what's going on. And I was like, you can't see anyway. That's why I'm doing it. And she was like, oh, well, we've all paid the same. And I'm like, okay. I just turned around and my mate was like, what was her problem? And when I told them, like, even people that didn't know me at the game was like, what's her problem with it? Which was nice to see that other people had me back. But I think she was just a bit of a Karen, to be honest. And because it was still 0-0 at this point, I think she wasn't too happy and was like, I'm going to take it out on the first person I can. But genuinely at the match, it's quite a good reaction. Usually you've got people going, oh, what are you doing? Or like asking about it. I think the difference is with me, like, I know which ones you're on about with the Irish, like doing TikTok and that, is I'm not really speaking about the game as it's going on. I'll sort of save that for half time and that. And when I'm holding the camera, I'll be holding it about here. So I can still see over it. And if anyone's ever looked at me at the game, they've seen like I'm not like this at my camera, I'm like looking over the top of it. So it's not a case of I'm not putting my energy or attention into the game. I'm still there instead of being on my phone talking to it, sort of thing.
Obviously, you've seen the reaction in the last week or so.
Yeah.
There's people who are struggling to get tickets all over the place for like probably one of the biggest games of the season, if not the last few.
Even I was struggling for it. I didn't get it until the night before. So
that's it. And then you get people getting given tickets, which fair enough. If you're getting given a ticket, you're taking it, aren't you? So, but to then sit there and not watch the match, to then just look into the phone, I think that's what winds people up.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me it was sort of, and I even tweeted about it, I was like, you can't just choose to suddenly come over for the biggest game when for them it is a job sort of thing. And for me, I was a bit like, if that was me and I was in a privileged position where this was now like my full-time job sort of thing, it was more important for me in some ways with the money side of things. And I'd be like, I'm going to go as much as I can sort of thing, because not only is it going to help you, you're going to have the money to be able to afford it a lot more, because anyone that goes the game, whether you're doing content creating or not, knows how expensive it is to go week in, week out sort of thing. And for me to see people like that get tickets and then not others, it just wasn't right. And then obviously you hear on the day that there's tickets going for 800 quid, and you're like, hang on, someone's going just to talk on the phone and not. And I've seen some of the clips where they are talking on the phone, and it wasn't the most positive of stuff at times, which it wasn't a great game, but still, while you're in the moment and the game's still going on, I always, and I think most people are around me when I'm there, try to be positive, because you're like, we've still need to get behind the team and see if we can at least get maybe a goal back, and if not more. But yeah, for me, sitting there and being negative at the game while it's going on just isn't it.
No, I'm with you. The best games that I can remember going back over the years are the games that no one had all this like phones and all this stuff. And I sound about 50 there. I'm only 32.
Yeah.
But
I started going at 12, and even then I can never remember like anyone really having their phones out, sort of thing. And that was only like 11, 12 years ago now.
yeah, and this is, by the way, this isn't me preaching saying people shouldn't have the phones.
Oh no,
And it's none of that.
yeah.
What I'm trying to
There's
say
two
is,
sides to it, isn't there?
yeah, of course, yeah, and make memories, take them on with you, great.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, and this is my argument for it. I didn't even know I was going to get into this, but I am. My thing on it is, if you're going to come to match, enjoy the match and be in the moment. Like you said, the moment is like the main thing, isn't it? If you do your job out there, perfect. But do us a favour, try not to wind people up on social media about it, because I feel like if you want to be, let's say, accepted in the ground, because there's all sorts of trouble on social media, then don't wind people up, especially people who are struggling to get tickets, because I've been going the game for years, and this season I've struggled like mad. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And when I see people take advantage of that opportunity, it just winds me up.
Yeah, I definitely felt like it was a bit of a brag. And like you said, I found this season, especially the last few weeks, it's actually been harder than last season to get tickets for. And I think that is just because obviously everything's now reopened with COVID, like rules and that. But yeah, when I saw the stuff on Twitter, it was definitely a bit of a brag. And the people that I see that do filming week in, week out, like me at the match, no one ever brags and like that they go in the game, but it's also, you see in their videos, they're putting all their effort into the game. Yeah, they're filming at the same time, but I think once you're doing it long enough, you sort of get a skill where you can film but not be paying attention to what you're filming, sort of thing. And I've done that a few times and then looked at the camera and it's not being recording, so that proves how much into the game I get when I'm there.
So, obviously, you mentioned about the response you get when you're in the ground. What's it like when you post online? Because I've started doing like TikToks and stuff of pods and interviews I've done and little snips just to get people involved and stuff. And you don't half get some negativity. So I find that as a man, it's quite difficult to read it. But I also see, like, as a female, I've spoken to people about this in the past. They feel like women shouldn't have an opinion on these things. So what's it like for you?
For the main part of it is very positive, which is pretty good. But usually it's like I'll tweet something and people will be like, because I'm a woman, I can't joke about the footy. It's like earlier this season, Nunes doing the VAR at Conor Cody, I just tweeted going as a joke, oh, he's already an absolute legend because he'd already just come back from headbutting someone.
Yeah.
And the amount of people that were like, they just weren't happy with what I'd said. And I was like, no one like sort of take a joke sort of thing. The main part of it is positive. The only real negativity I've had on like the YouTube side of things with being a girl doing it was actually turned out to end up being from another woman.
Wow, really?
Yeah, that was really weird. It was the like months and months after the game, it was the FA Cup final video, they commented on, and like anyone, you'll do social media, be like, if you see a comment on something from ages ago, you're like, that's a bit weird, what's that? So I just read it, and basically because I was showing off my Tsimikas top, they were calling me the CEO of supporting Liverpool because I fancied a player. To which what my response was, I didn't realise he'd been playing for 23 years for Liverpool. And I just put on as well, I was like, this is why like women don't want to get into football, because, and I just assumed it was a man, because a lot of the time that is where it comes from. If it's another female football supporter, you sort of understand the stick each other gets and you sort of won't put that out there. I just went, this is why like girls won't do it, because we have men commenting on stuff like this, and you just reply going, oh, I'm a woman too. And I was like, so why are you doing it, sort of thing? And it is really weird how it can come from both sides. The hate from the fact that you're just a girl that likes football sort of thing. But like I said, luckily I've not had too much negativity from just being a girl that likes football.
I'll be honest with you, when I see people doing like vlogs and stuff at the games, and this is an exception for you and quite a few others, to be fair, some of them can just be a fucking annoying. And
Yeah.
that's the way I look at them and I think you're forcing it. Like, you don't actually enjoy doing what you're doing. You like a lot of the YouTubers and a lot of people online, they just force things, don't they, for attention. Where I actually enjoy yours because it's quite informative. You actually show people about, and there's actual meaning behind it, and being a fan as well. That helps, not just the person turning up at the match with a camera, you know what I mean? So I enjoy it. So keep doing what you're doing. It's
thank you.
It's good. And I've seen your Florida ones recently.
Yeah, they're about to end, which is making me quite sad, to be honest.
Disney fan?
Yeah, massive. If you couldn't tell, there's a bunch behind me over here. But yeah, that's like my two main passions, is like going on holiday to Florida and the football. If you go on my YouTube, it's a mix of recommendations that are football or Florida. So
How many times have you been to Florida?
I want to say it's either 6 or 7 times now.
Any jobs with your dad?
Well, I've been once with my dad, and then when my mum and dad split up, I went then with my stepdad and my mum, and then we had my little brother. So then it was like, oh, we need to take little brother along, and then we took him, and then basically on that trip, the whole family felt like back in love with being there. So it took us a few years, but we ended up making it a point then that every 2 years, as me and my brother were growing up, we're going to try and go back each time.
So where can people find your vlogs?
All my vlogs are on YouTube under Courtney_Neary, but you can just type in Courtney LFC and I find that brings it up most of the time as well.
Let's talk about your love for Liverpool, basically. You've obviously explained how you do your vlogs and why you do your vlogs. So as a club, I always ask, well, I don't always ask this question, but I like asking this question because it's nice to dig in a bit. What does it mean to you to be a Liverpool fan?
I think for me, it means family, basically, just because my whole family has always been red, and it's sort of like big occasions always seem to follow like football events. So it would always be like, if it was someone's birthday, you'd be talking about the match that was coming up the next day or something like that. But then also family in the sense of no matter where you go, there's always a Liverpool fan there, and you'll always seem to find each other. Very similar to we've always found in Scousers, no matter where you go. But it's like we go on holiday, like I said, to Florida, but also we go to Greece and that, and you wear your Liverpool top, and it was so funny this like last year we're in Greece and everyone's singing the Tsimikas song to us or shouting at us down the street asking if Tsimikas is on the back of our shirt. And I've had the same. I've been to Spain as a kid, and you have the same there sort of thing. And it's like no matter where you go, you sort of find a little bit of Liverpool there, and you can like have the most random conversations with people you never expected to, just because you all support the same club.
Yeah, like you've said there, you can't go anywhere without a Scouser, can you? It's like water to get everywhere.
Yeah.
So you've roomed like a shrine to LFC.
Yeah.
I've seen your pictures.
We call it a museum in the house.
Yeah, I've seen your pictures online. Signed shirts, trophies, pictures, everything. Have you got any space left?
No. Like literally, all the LFC stuff started really with my dad, because this has always been my room ever since my nan passed away. It's been my room, but my dad sort of was like, he'd buy something LFC and he'd be like, that can go in Courtney's room. I'd come down, there'd be something. And like the first thing was he just surprised me with a Coutinho signed shirt, because he'd got himself 2 signed shirts. Like, he knew at the time my favourite player was Coutinho. He was like, I'm going to get Courtney that. But yeah, we're struggling for space at the minute, and my dad's even gone, we've got a Kenny Dalglish framed shirt on the top of the stairs.
Wow.
And my dad's on about moving it, and I'm like, where are you going to put it then? He's like, in your room. And I was like, I've got no space. Like, even the wall behind here, there's a mirror, and then there's a cardboard cut out of a lava bird behind it, and on the other side of the telly there's a Jamie Carragher canvas signed, and I'm like, where's it gonna go? And he's like, oh, but also my pre-match rituals, walking down the stairs and tapping it. So I'm like, yeah, I'm like, it can't go, because I'll be like, what do I do now?
Okay, so talk to me about this season then. So I don't really talk about this season.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of us are,
because it's painful. Just when you think you get in there, sort of like drops a bit. What are your thoughts on this season? Obviously, the start of it, I'd probably put down to injuries and fitness and mentality and little things like that. But recent weeks seems to be a little bit better. Then we got mauled by Madrid. So, what do you think so far?
Like that Madrid game, I thought was the perfect sum up of showing how different we've been over this season or last season. Last season, we played them very closely in the final, and then flash forward to last Tuesday, and it was just ridiculously different. Like I said, I do think for me it is tiredness at like continuing on from the beginning of the season, not just physically but also mentally. It's like you couldn't have played any more football than you did last season. Then you go into this season, and not only do you have the same in the beginning where you're playing every week, midweek, you then end up having a break where your biggest players are going off to the World Cup and have the stress and, like, again, mental side of being in a World Cup trying to fight for your country sort of thing. So I just think, like everyone's saying, the midfield we need to invest in. I think a lot more places this season have opened up where we need to get look there and maybe invest there. Like, I know we've brought in Calvin Ramsey as backup for Trent, but obviously he's only a young lad and it seems to be having a few injury problems. So you look there sort of thing, and obviously players that are aging and moving on over the next season or two. We need to look into them. But I am worried that we will spend a bit of money this summer, but then I think if we start having a good season next season, it'll sort of plaster over the issue. Like, personally, I think last season plastered over the issue because the season before then, like, again, was a season very much like this season. And it's one of those things you can't put a finger on exactly what's going wrong, but there seems to be like a few issues that we all seem to pick up on, and then we'll get 1 or 2 wins and we go, oh, actually, these issues might have fixed themselves, and you haven't know
Yeah.
it happened.
The derby in Newcastle, the biggest example of that, aren't they?
Yeah, and then you go even earlier this season, we beat Man City, and everyone was like, we're back. And then that was when I went on holiday, and I was like, I'm getting up at 6:30 to go and watch the football. And it was like, I think it was a 7:30 kickoff over there in the morning or something.
Whoa.
And we went and watched it, and that's when we played Forest.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, like, we were like, this is going to be brilliant. And then we went there, and I was like, no, we haven't fixed any issues at all.
What did you think of Palace?
You could see little bits of improvement. I was very shocked with that starting 11 though. Like,
Yeah.
midfield for me, I was just like, okay, we're going for Hendo, Millie, who's one of the oldest players, and then Naby, who isn't the most reliable when it comes to injury. And I think that then puts a doubt on him for going in for tackles because it sort of plays on his mind sort of thing. But a lot of people are going on about Klopp resting players for midweek or the weekend, and for me personally, I would have gone for the strongest side against Palace. Maybe played a bit better, never know, might have got that goal, and then rested a few on Wednesday because we're at home, we've got the support behind us then, and hopefully that will make things a bit different. But yeah, it was just a boring 0-0 game at the end, so there's not much we can talk about it. Yeah, it was boring. Genuinely, I think it could be possible that we lose against Wolves, but then beat United, because this season it seems to be against the bigger sides that are in better form. We tend to turn up, like Newcastle away. Newcastle have been absolutely on fire this season. And I know they'd had a bit of drop of form before then, but they've been phenomenal from what they were the seasons before. And then obviously we played well against Man City, so genuinely think the United game might be the better game for us result-wise, but you never know with us at this season.
We are now going to do a quick fire round with our guests. This could be very controversial.
Well, let's move on to the last section, the quick fire round. You've just got to answer with your honesty, basically. Quick questions, no thoughts into it, no hard feelings, I'm sure. Tsimikas or Robbo?
Oh, Tsimikas. It's got to be.
Why?
I do love Robbo, but I think I have a very similar sense of humour as Tsimikas. Like, just
for anyone who hasn't met him, explain that.
Me meeting him. So Hotel Anfield launched his clothing line just before Christmas, and luckily I have a very good relationship with Hotel Anfield, and they'd sort of pre-warned me about it, which I'm glad they did, because I think if I found out a week before, I would have been freaking out a little bit and my nerves would have been all over. But yeah, basically, I ended up getting a ticket for that, which you basically just bought an item of clothing, and the proceeds go to the Owen McVeigh Foundation as well, which I thought was a really nice touch because it's a
Brilliant.
local charity. And yeah, you got to meet Tsimikas, but also John Aldridge was there, which was pretty cool because I know him off working on the mural, so it was nice to see him. And yeah, it was a bit nerve-wracking going up because then I was allowed to stay in the room afterwards. So I could just sit to the side and have a drink and sort of have a catch-up with everyone who works with Hotel Anfield, which was nice. But then it was also a bit like surreal, me turning around and my favourite players just in the corner of the room. And I'm like, all that was going through my head. I was like, please don't say you've seen any of my posts on Instagram. I don't want you to know I've got your top. I don't want you to know me reaction to your penalty. Like, please don't say you've seen any of that. But no, he was really lovely. You saw it with like all the kids and that were going up to meet him and that, and he'd put the name on the caps for them and then sign it, or like it was lovely, and he'd sign anything you brought in, which was nice.
That's cool, isn't it? Steven Gerrard or Jordan Henderson?
Gerrard all the time. As well with me, I do love Handout, but with me being from up north and being more Newcastle sided, the Mackham in my head, like that side of it, I'm just like, still, it's got to be Gerrard. Scouser over a Mackham any day.
If you got Geordies in your family?
Yeah, my stepdad and technically my little brother, but he does go Scouse now and again, which is quite funny.
If you could live anywhere, where would it be and why? I think I've got the answer already. Yeah.
I used to say Orlando, I did, but since moving back to Liverpool, I've sort of realised, I think, say I won the lottery tomorrow, I'd still stay in Liverpool, but I'd probably travel a lot more than what I do at the minute.
Good answer. The new Liverpool kits or the retro ones? Because I've seen you in the retro ones as well.
Retro ones. I do like the new ones. I'm not someone who hates on the new ones, but I don't think you can be like retro 90s Adidas kit.
Okay. American food or English?
American.
What meal?
Boneless buffalo wings, which I've actually had today, and I had them yesterday as well.
From where?
So I cooked my own today, and then yesterday I got them at TGI's. But like my go-to Happy Meal.
What a way to end.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for today. Thanks for joining the pod, and good luck with the content creating. Enjoy what you're doing. So yeah, keep it going.
Thanks to everyone for listening in to today's podcast, and thank you to our amazing guests. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. Don't forget to follow us on social media, twitter.com/The Road End Pod, and on Instagram, Instagram/The Road End Pod.